Hi everyone, my name is Sandiswa and welcome to my channel TechSultan. If you want to know about tax for individuals, businesses, then this is the channel for you. Here I give some tips. I also discuss some topics that I believe that people might be interested in. If there is a topic that you would like me to cover that is not already covered on this channel, then please let me know down below in the comments. If you have been enjoying the content in this channel and you haven't subscribed, I'd really appreciate it if you clicked the subscribe button. And if at the end of the video you found the video helpful, I would really appreciate it if you give me a thumbs up. This really helps the channel. Thank you very much. Now, today I'm going to be talking about whether or not you should start a company if you have a side hustle. This is the question that I get often a lot from people. Should I register a company for my side hustle and whatnot? Now, disclaimer, there is no one size fits all answer to this question. However, I will give you some guidelines and also the expenses and the time that is required when you have registered a company, and also whether or not it will be a good decision for you for tax purposes. So that is what I'm going to cover today. Now, I have my book here that has notes to make sure that I cover everything that I want to cover. So if I'm looking down, then I'm looking at my notes. Okay. So firstly, I am going to cover the advantages of actually registering a company. The first one, company registrations ensures that your assets are protected. In other words, your personal assets are protected, because when you register a company with the CIPC, then the company becomes its own person. In other words, if you owe people in the company, they then cannot come for your personal assets. I hope that makes sense. So let's say, for instance, you have a house and a car under your personal name, but then you owe people for whatever reason, your company doesn't do well, and then you end up owing people. The people cannot come for your house and your car in order to pay for your company debts. It has happened in very special circumstances whereby the people who owe the debt will come for the personal assets and be successful at doing that. But generally, that does not happen. So a company protects your personal assets. I hope that makes sense. 2, if you register a company, your business name cannot be claimed by someone else. For instance, TechSultan. This is the name that I registered with the CIPC. There is no one else now that can come and claim the business or use the business, my business name, TechSultan, in order to start their own company. In fact, even if they did, they would just use that name, but they can never be able to register the name with the CIPC because it's already been taken by me. So that's also very important, especially when you have dreams of actually growing your business to becoming bigger and bigger or going international. It's always nice to know that you actually have a name that you've reserved and that will only belong to your company. Thirdly, customers tend to be more trusting when you have registered a company rather than when you are trading under your personal name. In other words, when you are trading as a sole trader, for whatever reason, people are more trusting when someone has established a company, a private company, or a CC, rather than when they are trading under their own name. 4th point is that whenever you have registered a company, it is normally easier to access funding from institutions than when you have not registered the company. One of these reasons for this is that, like I said in my first point, if you have a sole trader or if you are trading under the name, then people can sue you personally. But when you've registered a company, then they can't sue you personally. They can only sue the company, or they can only recover their debts from the company. So even with funders, they always look at whether or not you have registered the company. In that way, they also see how serious, that it also indicates how serious you are about your business, and also it gives them peace to know that your personal stuff is separated from the business stuff. Another advantage of registering a company is that in South Africa, then you can be able to tender. In other words, you can be able to get contracts from the government. In South Africa, there is a system where you need to go register if you want to be able to work with the government. And if you have not registered a company, then you are unable to go register on that system, because it requires that you have a registered company in order to do that. So in other words, if you want to be a tenderpreneur, then you need to register a company right away. There is no other way of actually working with the government other than having a private or company or CC. So how does one register a company? If you want to register a company, you go online to the CIPC. Now, the CIPC is the Company and Intellectual Property Commission. CIPC, Company and Intellectual Property Commission. That's where you register your company. Registration for a company is between about 125 Rand and about, I think, 475 Rand, depending on the type of company that you are registering and also all the added benefits that you want with your company. It's a fairly easy process. Really, anybody can do it if you are familiar with how to use a computer or a phone and all of that stuff. So you can register your company online. However, if you are not familiar with how to use a computer and the internet and all of that stuff, there are lots and lots of companies that do company registrations. So that's how you register your company here in South Africa. Now, I am going to be getting into the financial and the tax implications of registering a company. One of the things that you need to do after you've registered a company, and this is something that people forget all the time. One of the things that you need to do is to actually submit annual returns to the CIPC. To be clear, these are not returns for tax. These are returns for the CIPC. When it's time for you to submit your annual returns, what normally happens is the CIPC sends you an email, a reminder email. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't, but in most cases, they will send you an email using the email that you used when you were registering the company, saying that you need to submit your annual returns. This has to be done on an annual basis. Now, the fee that you pay for the submission of your annual returns, it depends on the turnover that your business makes. I want to reiterate though that this is not annual returns for tax. These are annual returns for the CIPC. The CIPC requires you to submit these returns in order to make sure, number one, that your company doesn't get deregistered. Number two, in order to make sure that you are still alive, you are still operating the company, because it does happen sometimes that people open companies and then they die. But then there is someone somewhere who actually wants to use that name in order to register their company. So the CIPC, if you don't submit your annual returns, what they start doing, they start deregistering your company. Yep, they do that. They start deregistering your company, and once they do that, you can still salvage the situation by starting to submit your annual returns. But then after a very long time, they actually do deregister your company if you don't submit annual returns with the CIPC. Number two, after you've registered your company, it is compulsory to open a bank account. This is a SARS requirement. Right, guys? This is a SARS requirement. SARS requires that you open a bank account in order for them to be able to track the income that you are making so they can tax you accordingly. So it is compulsory to open a bank account for your business. This is a SARS requirement. Very, very, very important. Also, when you register your company with the CIPC, SARS automatically registers your company for income tax. And I'm saying this automatically because as soon as you register your company with the CIPC, you get a tax number from SARS. So as soon as you register your company, you get your company documents. On the company documents, you will get documents that have a tax number. That means you've been automatically registered for tax. And I'm saying this because this is now different with the individuals and the companies. For individuals, you have to physically register yourself in order to get a tax number. It doesn't happen automatically. But with companies, as soon as you register with the CIPC, you get a tax number. So that means SARS automatically registers you for income tax. Mind you, income tax only income tax only, not all the other taxes that you need to register for. Right. Now, what does this automatic registration by SARS trigger? It triggers provisional taxes and income tax submissions. So that brings me to my next point. The submission of provisional tax returns, these need to be submitted 2 times a year, at the end of August and at the end of February. With some companies, they may need to submit a 3rd provisional tax returns, but this is not when you're making a lot of money. But what I'm trying to get to is that whether or not your business makes money, you still need to submit provisional tax returns. They are called nil returns in tax terms. So you submit a provisional return, you put 0, 0, 0, 0, 0 for everything. So whether or not you make money, SARS expects you to submit provisional tax returns. That is why I said to you earlier, it's very important to look at your finances, time, and all of that, because having a private company or SEC costs money and time. It's expensive because in most cases, people don't have the expertise to submit the annual return by the CIPC. They also don't have the expertise to submit provisional returns for SARS. And when I say expertise, I mean these things. For instance, for the CIPC, you need to have your annual turnover in order to submit the annual CIPC returns. Annual turnover, that means you need to have been looking after your books or recording all your sales in the company in order to get that. And sometimes that requires expertise of a professional, like maybe a bookkeeper or an accountant. Same with provisional tax. If you are not submitting a nil return, you need someone that's going to calculate what your provisional return is. And in most cases, people don't know this because, for provisional tax, if you are someone that does not have a tax background, then you might require services of a professional in order to calculate this for you correctly. And the reason I'm saying this is because the implications of under providing or paying less provisional returns than you're supposed to are very severe. SARS charges up to 10% penalties for under provision. So in this situation, it's very important that you make sure that you submit the right amount all the time. You need to submit your annual returns. This is now for tax. So just to recap, CIPC returns, they have their own annual returns that you use turnover to submit. You have provisional returns submitted twice a year for your company. And then you have an annual return. Annual, it is submitted once a year. Because most companies have a February year end, it is submitted in February, at the end of February. So why I'm saying this is because companies are taxed at 28% of their net profit. When you want to differentiate between the provisional, the annual tax return and the annual CIPC return. CIPC return requires your turnover. Your turnover is your total sales without deducting any expenses. Tax return requires your net profit. This is now after you've said sales minus expenses. Then you get your net profit. So that you also need to submit every year, and SARS takes 28% of your net profit and they keep it for themselves. So that's what you need to be aware of as well. And in certain situations, this also requires some form of expertise, especially when your company starts making a lot of money. So you need to keep in mind that if your company starts making money, you might need to use the bookkeeping services of someone to record all your transactions on a monthly basis, or an accounting firm or an accountant. And then you might also need a tax practitioner. And if you will be considering a tax practitioner, then make sure that it is someone that is registered. The following tax types that I'm going to mention are not compulsory. They may be needed as the business grows. For VAT, when the company starts making a turnover of R1 million or more within a 12-month period, then it is compulsory to register for VAT, right? I've also done a VAT video, so I will put it somewhere here so that you guys can have a look at it if you want to learn more about VAT. And if you also want to know when should you register and when should you not, if or not you can register without having made $1 million, because you can. That is now a voluntary registration, but then a compulsory registration is when you have made $1 million or more within a 12-month period. Then you need to submit for VAT. Now add that to your expenses and to the admin with VAT returns, because they're a little complicated. You do require services of a professional in order to submit them, right? And then you need to submit pay as you earn. You need to register for pay as you earn, UIF and SDL if you are employing people. Again, here it depends on how much those people are being paid. Otherwise, if you're paying them amounts that are below the threshold, then you might not need to register them. But then also SARS has some thresholds whereby if your employees start earning certain amounts, then you need to register them for pay as you earn, UIF and skills development levy, which is SDL. Very, very, very important. Lastly, if you earn a salary and you have a side hustle and you want to know if whether or not you should register a company for your side hustle, one of the things that you need to consider is whether or not your side hustle income is going to push you at a higher bracket. People are taxed according to the tax tables, right? Now, the smallest bracket there is 18% and the largest is 45%. Now, if you are sitting at, say for instance, at about 30%, you are sitting in the 30% bracket in your taxes. And if you add on top of that, your side hustle income is going to take you to the 45% bracket, then it would be a good idea for you to then start a company on the side and then use the company for your side hustle, because companies are taxed at 28%. So that's something to look at. But again, it is very important to know that there is no one size fits all solution to this. It is important that you go to a professional, a tax practitioner, an accountant, and then they will calculate for you whether or not it is time for you to actually register a company for your side hustle. Those are the things that they will look at. They will actually take your income and do a calculation to see whether or not you will be saving any taxes, or if it will be better for you financially if you are using a private company for your side hustle. Now, if you are here at the end of this video, I would really appreciate it if you give it a thumbs up if it helped you. And also, I'd really appreciate it if you subscribe to this channel. It would help me a great deal. Thank you so much. Check out my other videos as well about VAT, as well as provisional tax, as well as some tips for individuals that are on this channel. Thank you.